Hey everybody, and welcome back to the shop. Man, do we have a great project for you today. It's this U.S. General single drawer cart from Harbor Freight. It's still new from Harbor Freight. Haven't even had it on sale yet, but we went ahead and got one for Project DIYer's cart. Now we're gonna unbox it, we're gonna put it together. I've got some great tips for you and some tricks and even a nice hack for this little cart. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's do a quick time lapse now and see what it looks like. And now let's see what the hardware is that comes with it. We'll be right back to put it together. There we go. Now, as you can see, Harbor Freight got a little bit cheap on these top tray and bottom tray. They give you one rubber lining for the drawer and that's it. But we know how to fix that, don't we? Let's get this wrapped up in another time lapse and we'll be right back. And there we go. Okay, so what you missed out on was I scuffed this. You could almost see that it's got a little bit flat look to it now with some sandpaper so that my truck bed coating here would have a little bit to bite on. And you also missed the million times I've had to shake this can. You got to shake this stuff up really good to make sure you get it. Time lapse, time lapse, time. All right, well, we ripped through that can pretty quick. Let's just let it dry up in the sun. All right, we're back, and man, look at this thing, right? Really looks good, and we didn't have to go out and buy any of that liner stuff. This rhino lining or truck bed lining, fake rhino lining, works very well on stuff like this. I've used it in the past. Check out some of my other videos. I'll try to put a card up here so that you can check those out. Now, as with most of our Harbor Freight carts, they start by putting your casters on the bottom kind of tray shelf thing first. So we have all swivel casters on this car, which is really nice. It should be very maneuverable. And there's two non-locking and 2 locking. So you'll want to make sure you put the locking ones on one end of the cart. It doesn't matter which end for now. You'll just want to put the locking ends on one end of the cart and the non-locking casters on the other end of the cart. Now, as I thought, you could see I have all my pieces here. They all come in one bag. So set your other bag aside. It's a little more confusing with all the nuts and bolts and washers that are in here. This one is nice and easy. It's the nuts, bolts, and washers for the casters. They're going to be M8 by 16s, and they're carriage bolts like this, so you can't get on them with a wrench. They've got a square on the under the head that locks into these holes. Now, here's a tip for you. When you go to put these on, sometimes there's powder coat down in these holes, and it makes it a little bit difficult to start them. So here is a whole new trick for you. What I've done is I've brought over a couple of these. These are M8 nuts. So we're supposed to put these nylocks on them so that they don't back off. The problem is trying to hold the washer and get the nylock to tighten down and keep the bolt from spinning in these holes, because it doesn't lock in, you know, is pretty troublesome. So what you can do is, don't worry about the nut and washer for now. If you have one of the old carts, or you have a couple of these sitting around, it doesn't matter if it has a flange or not. Just use an M8 nut to spin it on there and just kind of cinch one of them down so it pulls the shoulder on this carriage bolt down into the hole in case there's powder coat in the way. That way you have one of them started. Then you can put in one on, say, this opposite corner, use another nut to spin it down and seat the carriage bolt, then spin off your nut real quick. You don't have to torque it down, just enough to seat the bolt. Then pull it off real quick and go ahead and put your washer and your nylock on there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll be right back. Okay, so there we go. Check this out. We got 2 locking swivels on this end, and on the other end, we just have the non-locking swivels. Doesn't matter which end you put them on. You can worry about that later. No big deal. Now, using these M8 flange washers that came with my 5-drawer cart to spin on there to hold one of these things in place while I get the other 3 started, just worked perfect. It's a really good idea. So got them all on there. Don't tighten any single one down until you have all 4 of them lined up and on there. Then another tip, the 13mm gear wrench, ratcheting wrench. Now this one is a flex head, and on some stuff like this it really makes all the difference in the world. It's a little more expensive than what the regular ratcheting wrench is, but you'll love it. Of course, we still have some more nylock and flat washers. These are for attaching the top tray to the drawer. So I think we're gonna have to take the drawer out for that. I don't know, we'll just have to see, but let's get set up for that. All right, so here's the drawer section for this little cart that we're putting together. And in their infinite wisdom, they ship it with the locked, so the drawer's locked in place. Now we can pull this open, and it's going to give you a little bit of grief because there's kind of like little detents on here to hold the drawer closed. So you're going to pull it out, and then you're going to look under here for these little levers. See how that lever moves? There's one on each side. One goes up, one goes down. When you get it to the end, just pull up and push down on the other and just give it a little pull, and it should come right out. So when you get ready to bolt on your top tray to the drawer, you should have something that looks like this, because we've taken our drawer out. And if you don't see your U.S. General emblem, you might need to turn it around. Don't bolt this on backwards. It goes facing the side with the drawer. So what you're going to have for this is 1 bolt, 2 washers, and one of those nylock nuts that we use. Their washers and nuts are the same ones that we used on the casters. So I've got a washer on my bolt, and then I'll put a washer and a nylock nut on the bottom. Just slip that right in there. I'm going to drop one in all 4 of the holes, and then I'll go ahead and tighten each one of them down with a nylock nut and a washer on the bottom, just like you're seeing here, right? And make sure that you leave them a little bit loose until you have all 4 of them in and seated, then tighten them up. We'll be right back after we do that. And there we go. Once again, having this 13 millimeter flex head ratcheting wrench really helps. And of course, I didn't say so, but you are going to need a steel wrench. And it's a little bit tough if you're not ambidextrous, and I am not, but you'll get them in there, and then you have your tray connected to the top drawer body of your cart. We'll be right back with the next step. Okay, well, our next part is to install these uprights for our cart. So we've got the bottom down here on the floor, and we've got a couple of uprights here, and what we're going to use to attach them is going to be a 10 millimeter screw. It's an M6 Phillips, and then we've got a washer and a lock nut for each one of those. So there's 4 on the bottom and 4 on the top of each upright. Use your choice of ratchet and socket, or ratchet wrench and a Phillips screwdriver. In this case, I'm using the Doyle. Now, these are symmetrical, so don't worry about getting them mixed up. And here's a tip. When you put in the screws, go ahead and cinch them down, but don't tighten them all the way down. Leave them a little bit loose. It'll make getting the top part on later a little bit easier. So let's get those attached. All right, so we got our 4 uprights on, and I've gone ahead and put the cart on its back so it'll make it easier to put the top on, because there's nothing for it to rest on. So this way I should be able to get the screws started. Now let's talk about the screws for a second. These M6 screws there's 2 sizes in that last bag. These big long ones for the handle, and all the rest of them are these little short M6 Phillips screws. And then you've got nylock M6 nuts and number 6 washers for all of them. So remember, these are only finger tight. We aren't cinching them down yet. Now, for illustration, I put 2 in the front here, and then I'll put 2 in the front over there. For the side, these screws are going to go in the side, but we aren't going to put them on yet because they're for the handles. I went ahead and put one of the small screws on here so that it will stay together better when I lift it up to put the screws in this back part here. Then it'll settle down on its own weight, and it'll be easy to cinch everything up and put the handles on. So we'll get all those little screws in the uprights and set it up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got the rest of the screws in that belong, and we're getting ready to put these 2 handles here on, and they take those 4 longer screws. Now, if you start putting the rest of the back screws in there and feel like you're running short of short ones, don't forget that you used a couple of the little screws when you were standing it up. Take those out and put them in the front and back, and then use your long screws for your handles. Let's go ahead and get those put on. All right, well, we got the long screws in. Everything is still very loose, and that really helps for getting stuff lined up and moving things around. Now, I'm going to put the drawer in so that it'll keep the cart from racking too much while I tighten everything up. I'm going to start at the bottom, work my way up, and just kind of tighten everything down just a little, and then I'll start from the bottom again and go up and tighten everything down well. And that should just about do it. We'll be right back to show you the final job. Well, that's going to finish this project, and what a project it was too. My overall takeaways from this: Not too bad. The panels are well made and it's got good fitment so long as you leave all of these screws loose before you tighten everything up. You shouldn't have a problem. I wish they would have used something like maybe an Allen or a Torx instead of the Phillips screws. You know, maybe an impact would have helped there. I'm not sure. Now, right up in here between the handle and this screw, there's a nut in there that you need to tighten down, and you're going to need a flat wrench to do that. The fasteners all seem to be adequate, and of course they always give you a few extras just to make sure that you have enough to finish the project. Everything tightened up well, it moves very well, the drawer opens and closes well. It's got kind of a little grab that pulls it closed and makes sure it's closed well. There's even a liner on the drawer, and I think they give you like 3 keys. So everything is just a little bit not as good as their other carts, as is the fashion at Harbor Freight, but it's still U.S. General. It's still made very well. I'm impressed with it. I wish also that there would have been liners, at least for the top, guys. Come on, is it really that hard? Now, 1 can of truck bed liner did not cover both of them really well, so I'm going to end up having to get another can of that and touch it up just a little bit. Should not be a problem though. The casters, you got 4 swivel casters. 2 of them have locking mechanisms on them. Really like that. Should make it very maneuverable. Overall, I'm going to give it their usual, thumbs up. Maybe give it 8 out of 10. And the reason I don't give it a full 10 is because, one, using the Phillips screws, I don't think they probably should have done that. The other thing is that this cart has never been on sale. I finally broke down and paid full price for it, $99.99. Links and information down below here. Paid the $99.99, but given their usual model, if they have this go on sale for a very good price, we might even see it this Christmas for $79.99. And for sure, I'd lap it up at that. That's an excellent price for this little cart. It works very well. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you're new, and feel free to leave your comments, what you would have done, what you wouldn't have done, down below. I love reading all that stuff. And remember, go through the comments because there's gold to be gleaned there, my friends. Check out what other people are saying. They have great ideas. If you would like to send me some information, use this email address here, blindguycan@gmail.com. Now, if you are coming up on your weekend, everybody, make it a good one and take care.